of the real joys of this Stockton-based podcast has been meeting people from Stockton who've done a whole range of things and achieved so much in their lives as well. And I'm joined by someone today who's done exactly that, the novelist Adele Parks. So let's go full steam ahead and have a chat for the next half hour, Adele. And so welcome back to Stockton.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you back.
Here. Well, great to be here.
You're back for a special reason today as well, aren't you?
I am. So this evening I'm doing an event at Stockton Library with Drake's Bookshop.
Oh, wonderful,
independent
Drake's,
bookshop.
the bookshop. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I've done several events with Drake's. You know, it's been such a lovely thing to see that bookshop thrive in Stockton, which it definitely is. And it's lovely to come full circle and come home and, do events in the libraries that I used to borrow books from. It was amazing. So yeah.
And
fun.
Drake's they've got regular events with authors. I was there quite recently, and they had a sort of children's book day, and a number of authors came, and young kids from the local area were coming into the bookshop as well.
Super important.
And in Stockton, we've got this really thriving group of independent shops on Silver Street, where Drake's is and so many other places as well. I wonder, I don't know if it's a little while since you've been to Stockton recently, but I wondered if you had a chance to have a bit of a look up the high street and what you think of what's happening.
Because my husband isn't local, so I gave him a grand tour, which, it was the sort of, there used to be, because then I'd tell him what I remembered and then what is here. Because I've got some really funny memories, like my first Saturday job, I think I was about 14, because you could have Saturday jobs at 14 then. I worked in Chelsea Girl, which was on the high street, and it looked out onto the shambles. And I was saying to him, my mum used to get her secondhand books in the shambles market. Oh, wow. And there was a system where the bookseller would, I don't know, if you paid 30p for the book, imagine, and then the next week you'd get 15p back or 20p towards your next book.
So it's almost like a sort of private lending library in some way, isn't it?
Sort of, yeah, but, quite a good range and things. And so I was just taking my husband back through all of that. But we stopped at a lovely little local tea shop just around the corner. We stumbled upon the vintage market, which I love a bit of vintage.
Great,
yeah. So they were just closing up, actually, so I'll have to come back when it's on, which I understand is Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah. So, but I'm just thinking, do you think that sort of visit to the second-hand bookshop regularly with your mum, do you think that might have sort of sparked that kind of literary interest that you've got?
It was that and libraries. So I went to a local state primary school and a local comprehensive, and there was Egglescliffe Library was right in the middle of the primary school and the comp. And so throughout my school life, I would go to the library after school. It was just sort of what you did. And particularly because my sister, if I was waiting for her, if she was in a club or doing something, I don't mean like a nightclub. Yeah, she would hate me thinking that. No, do you know what I mean? Like a brownies club or something like that. I would go and wait in the library. And I genuinely can remember the feel of the carpet, the smell of the books, the way they were covered, the plastic. I don't know if it is because books stayed with me for the rest of my life that I constantly access that memory. But I remember that more than I think anything else. I think swimming pools I remember that way. But can I tell you that was for trauma?
Yeah, no, I remember the smell of the packet of salt and vinegar crisps I used to have afterwards, which was my treat for going in there. But so like you, I had a similar experience, and I remember my local library really well as well. And my dad used to take me every Thursday evening because it was late night on the library on a Thursday. Maybe they had other late nights, but certainly Thursdays. So he'd come home from work, he'd have his tea, then we'd go to the library, and every single week. So he was a massive reader. So I think we both shared an inspiration from a parent, haven't we? Exactly that.
I genuinely think it's so tricky now that if you happen to be somebody who isn't really a comfortable or confident reader, you will not feel comfortable or confident reading to your child or getting your child to be a reader. And it's such a shame because then it sort of ends it for other generations. So I would say to anyone who is listening to the podcast and they think, I have never thought of taking my kid to a library. Just do it this week. Just go and find out. You'll find that there are, nearly every library has reading clubs for kids. They quite often have story time. It's not stuffy and old-fashioned like it used to be, where you have to be quiet and it's all, you can get Audible books out. You can use the computers. It's a community hub. And they're super important.
Well, they really are. And of course, in Stockton Library, we also have great exhibitions in the library. So it's worthwhile going in for that. It was an amazing one for the Stockton and Darlington Railway.
And it can just be a kind of comfortable place to be. And I do think, you know, I do a lot with this charity called the National Literacy Trust. And they work a lot in Teesside, actually. And I'm a patron of particularly in Teesside. And one of the things I hear all the time is the difference it can make if you are a comfortable reader, because it's not just about education, which we all know, and in fact sometimes that's what puts people off reading. It's more than that. It's about the entertainment, it's about the escapism. Goodness, don't we all need to escape our lives at some point? And it's about the empathy as well, because we get one life and we all honestly live it from our own point of view, even if we try not to. But if you're a reader, you do get the opportunity to live many different lives and see things from other people's points of view. So I could clearly bang on about it for the next half hour, but I genuinely would like, it's free. I mean, it's free. So I would like it to be gifted to everybody, to go to libraries, to start picking up books or comics or whatever it is with your kids and read more.
Yeah, you're right. And it's actually, I'm really pleased you mentioned comics as well, because I know, again, some people, if they haven't been into a library, or they just might find it quite intimidating, for a child, certainly, or for any of us, I guess, any form of reading is good. I mean, I worked my way through the whole Asterix books collection when I was a little boy, you know. But in our local library, but any form of reading is good. It doesn't really matter
100%.
What it is. I mean, I know they say to parents, if the kids read the ingredients of the cornflakes box or whatever, it doesn't really matter.
100%.
Read it, just read something.
Because every time you read, you'll find words you can't pronounce, you don't understand, and then you might ask about them, and that's all good. I read a lot of comics when I was a kid, loads and loads of comics, probably the same amount of books, because people, comics were cheaper, so grannies and granddads and things would buy you a comic. Comics are probably quite expensive now. I don't know, everything seems expensive now. But honestly, if you can get your hands on anything, then give it a go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's really important that children have that opportunity to get that start in life. And you mentioned the charity they work with, the Literacy Trust, isn't it? Which I think is the one Her Majesty the Queen is the patron, in fact, isn't it? So,
she is.
Have you had an opportunity to meet her as part of that children's work? Oh, goodness me.
I've known her about, I've met her over the last sort of 15 years. So I've been involved with the Reading Agency for about 17 years and the National Literacy Trust for about 15 years. And, or however long it is since the first time I met the Queen was the day after William and Kate had got engaged. It was a funny story.
Oh, my goodness me.
I remember it because it was a funny story because everybody was sort of, told kind of, in those days things were a lot more formal. Actually, the King and Queen, they are quite relaxed. They are, and they're quite easygoing. But back in the day, they used to sort of say, right, it's ma'am rhymes with jam, don't talk to her till she talks to you. I'm sure there weren't her rules. I think there were palace rules, Yeah. Anyway, I was lining up, and there was Anthony Horowitz first, and then me on this lineup, like an old-fashioned wedding lineup, to shake hands. And she chatted to Anthony Horowitz, very relaxed, about Foyle's War. She apparently loves it.
Oh, very good.
That was amazing, and she was chatting. So by the time she got to me, I was just super excited, and all the rules went out my head. So the one of, don't introduce the subject unless she does, don't talk to her unless she talks to you, call her Her Majesty, I think it was in those days, I can't remember, it was the Duchess. But anyway, I broke all the rules and I just rushed in and went, are you excited about the engagement? She said, clearly not as excited as you are. Because I was just so, and
so
she was lovely about it. And I've met her several times. In fact, funny enough, the most recent time up here, and I'd been to Clarence House and done a speech at Clarence House for a big National Literacy Trust event. And then we had an event here, actually in Middlesbrough Town Hall. And I said to her, and how do you like my gaff? I've been to yours, how do you like mine? And she loved it. She has a bit of fun with all that. So
well, we'll have to see if we can invite her to come to Stockton sometime. I had a chat with the King after I became MP, and he was very interested in Billingham and what we're doing in Billingham. He said that to me, MP for Billingham. He said, I'm very keen that we'll have more green industry activity there. So maybe we can get them to come from Clarence House to Port Clarence. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I reckon you could. Yeah. Honestly, they are, I think they're really hardworking. I know everybody's got a different opinion on it, and everybody is entitled to their opinions. I'm very pro that. But personally, from what I'm seeing close up, I've seen, quite a lot of hard work.
So the National Literacy Trust, then, you're also doing some work with libraries, because we've just been talking about libraries. You're obviously really passionately committed to it, but I know that you're setting up sort of small libraries in different places as well.
Yeah,
do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky that I can't believe that my childhood was always about saving up for the next book. That was exactly what I did.
And
how
you get your book tokens for your birthday.
Yeah, and and that all the way through to young adulthood, really. I remember on my 26th birthday, I got gifted something like 11 books and thought it was the best birthday ever because all my mates had bought me books. But which I'm sure some 26-year-olds would hate, but I loved it. But I now get sent books daily from people. Yeah, daily. I mean, literally a book a day.
Would they be from other authors who want you to read their books?
Other authors or publishing houses that have got something they want to have seen. And I write for a monthly glossy magazine, and I write the review page for that. So I get a lot. Obviously, I can't read a book a day. That would be insane, But I can't bear the idea of these books. And quite often they're called proofs because that means they're advanced copies. And they're really special. And quite often they've got, extra special fonts or illustrations or something in them. And you're not allowed to, they're not allowed to be resold. So you can't really officially even give them to charity shops because then they would be resold. And the reason they're not allowed to be sold is they might have typos in and mistakes, or on a rare occasion, the author might change something in that book after the proof. So there's a kind of smoke and mirrors thing going on there. But I get all these books, and I've got literally maybe 4,000 books in my own personal library.
Me. Have you got like a special sort of place where you keep them then?
I have an entire room that's entirely,
all
the whole way around.
Oh, that's really exciting.
And they're actually still even too deep. And then I got to a point I thought, this is silly. This is actually greed. The ones I've read, I'm keeping for nostalgia, the way you'd keep a nice ornament because it makes me happy. But that's silly because it's been read, it should be shared. And the ones I haven't read, I'm not going to get around to all of them. So I did think this is silly. So I just started, first of all, reaching out to locally, to where I live, and to friends and things, and setting up little books, like bookshelves. I call them libraries. So this is like a bookshelf
that you offer to different places.
It's like an IKEA Billy Books, do you know what I mean? It's one of those. And I put it in, I don't know, women's refuge or OAP homes or staff rooms in, I don't know, in a hospital or for teachers and different things, and fill them up with books. And, it's worked. People love it. And it's just a way of spreading the love. And I fully believe in this because I think if you pick up a good book, you don't think, oh, I'm done now. That's me finished. I've finished with reading. That anyone will tell you if you pick up a good book and finish it, the next thing you want to do is pick up the next one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I always end up, when I finish a book, if I haven't got another one to read straight away, I sort of feel slightly bereft because I want to look for that next one.
Yeah.
And so just making the books accessible in that way is great. We've got...
I'd love to do that in Stockton.
Yeah.
And if I can do a shout out. Yeah, if you can find me the places that would genuinely benefit, I would love to, because a little bit sometimes, I sort of put it on my Instagram, and a lot of people came back, but I thought, you don't need it that much. I know that sounds judgy of me, but there would be, lovely mums clubs, and I think you've probably got enough books between you. You could probably share them around. I want to bring these books to people who really wouldn't see them otherwise. So
let's just get this then, because we might have listeners watch the podcast here. So if it's an organisation or individual people?
If it's like just anything.
Like if you do like
I was just going to say that, a community centre, a sports centre, and there might be some mums dropping the kids off to do something and they're sat around waiting. Women's refuge, pensioner homes, because, they can still be reading, people. We should not write off our old people.
So we've got all sorts of places like that in Stockton. So let's try and do that together.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can find some places where people would like to do that and have their own little mini library supplied by you.
I literally, because I won't waste money on anything. So I literally drive up here to see my family, and I will just pack the car full of books, and then I will literally deliver them, and it's the quickest and best way. And then just keep that ticking over, because books do... I'm not allowed... You'll see in real libraries, they cover them. There's proper jackets to cover the books and things to protect them. This isn't like that. This is going to be where if you love that book, you take it home. That's yours. That's
so
fine.
let's get some Adele Parks library set up in Stockton then.
I would love that.
And I think that'll really help actually, because I know you're very concerned about literacy, and we've got a lot of our local schools are really doing some very good work in that area. I visit schools every week, and I was at Harrogate Primary School recently. I don't know if you know it, and they've created their own library. I think you would love it. They've got a room. They've made their own bookcases, and they've got a beautiful space for the children to be in. But I was really surprised recently to learn that 27%, so nearly a third of adults in Stockton North have a very low level of literacy, so a reading age of about 7, and so clearly they haven't had that opportunity to develop that.
No.
And I think that could make people feel a bit detached, from society, and so it's important, I think, as well, that as well as children, we give adults the opportunity to feel like they can.
100%.
Because it could be very off-putting. I mean, I think as an adult, if you were, it would take a bit of bravery to think, right, I want to improve my reading skills. Maybe if you've had children yourself now and you want to help the children, and then someone gives you a sort of children's book to read to learn the words.
There's a few fixes for that. So the other charity, not the National Literacy Trust, but the other charity that I work with, the Reading Agency, which is the one that probably focuses most on adults. Yeah. If I was to break them down simply, I would say National Literacy Trust do kids, and Reading Agency do adults, mostly. They both have crossovers, but mostly. And they work together as well a lot of the time. There is a project that the Reading Agency do called Quick Reads. And they are adult books written by bestsellers, such as, people like me and, I don't know, every bestseller on every list that can write a really good story. But they write thin, tiny books that are about a fifth of the size of a novel.
So something that will help someone to learn to read.
And that's the idea. It's called a quick read because you pick it up and it's not intimidating and it's not too much and it's not too much of a over investment in your time.
Sounds to me like I could do with that in between meetings.
Well, actually, that's also true. And I always say to people, if you're commuting, it's a really good one. And and they just they're a couple of quid, and so they're also more accessible financially. So there's a lot going on there that I think is really good about this. But you're absolutely right that I remember I think this was about 15 years ago, I couldn't swim. And as an adult, not being able to swim, that's embarrassing. And my husband can and my son can. And I made sure my son could. I took him to the lessons. I knew it was important for him, but I hadn't cracked it. And I was talking to a reader and she told me how terrified she was of reading. And we got onto sport and she said she was really sporty and she swam a lot. And I just said...
Did you do a deal?
We did. We did an absolute deal. I said, okay, I will start swimming if you start reading and we'll give it a whirl. And I can now swim and I can quite confidently swim.
Have you got your 25 metre certificate?
I have got at least that. I would say I'm like, maybe 500 metres now.
Oh my goodness me.
And that's the point. I mean, it's taken a long time, but that is the point, that it's hard as an adult to say you can't do something. But we're just humans. We're just bigger babies, actually. And in many ways, it's really, really difficult to say, I haven't found the books that interest me. I haven't started reading. I don't even know if it's for me. Nobody's ever suggested it could be for me. Because loads of kids, when they are kids, people at school, teachers or parents or whatever think, they're not the ones that are going to enjoy the books. Or the kid themselves decides it. But a lot of things you decide when you're 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old are wrong. They're just wrong. And what you might decide when you're 40, 50-year-old might be a more considered life view. And you might be a reader and you've just discovered it at 40 or 50-year-old.
And I do think there'll be people out there who, as you described, that kind of fear of doing it, or maybe embarrassment or shame, frankly, as well. Some people might feel...
boredom. They might think it's going to be really boring. And that's the other thing I'm going to say to people. I quite often say to people, they say, I don't read. I meet a lot of people say they don't read. And then I go, okay, what do you do with your time? And they might say, I read Heat magazine or something like that. And I'm like, right, this particular book, and I'll find a book that's quite chick-litty or something. I go, right, this particular book is a bit like, many issues of Heat magazine. Give it a whirl. Or it might be that somebody is, they're interested in football, but they wouldn't really necessarily know. There might be a really great book about football.
You're describing something really special now, though, because isn't it lovely if you know someone who can recommend good books for you? So I'm very fortunate to have someone like that in my life who knows a huge amount about all sorts of different books and is able to select just the right sort of book for me.
Yeah.
And I think, if you're learning to read, you can't risk having something that you can't engage with.
No, and I think that is not now. Teachers are so on it now, and they know that kids need books that they can, relate to and have fun with. And I think that's why, they make libraries really beautiful. But I think maybe there was a generation that we were given classics often at school. Now, I loved a classic. That was great because I am a reader. But for the vast majority of people, reading a classic is just hard work. And if I'm honest, reading a classic now would be hard work for me because I would think, oh, that's a bit of a slog. They're really big and the language is antiquated and it's not for me. So it's just finding the book that's for you. So if you go and watch a James Bond movie, there is the equivalent book. Well, obviously there is actually the book in that case.
Yeah, I've read a few of those as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are so many books out there. It's just finding the right one for you.
And so you say about slogging through a classic. So I think I remember once slogging through. Now I think it was Edwin Drood, Dickens novel. I think that's the one that he didn't finish.
Yeah.
If I'm right. And I got like
you were glad, were you?
Well, it was a bit of a slog. I got through it, and then I was like, oh, there's no ending, and because I didn't realise, I had no idea that he hadn't finished it. And I felt like I'd wasted my time.
Yeah, you had.
But I had indeed. So it's a strong recommendation to people
story.
There. If you, well, it was. I mean, you can imagine the ending
yourself. It's a good storytelling. Oh
well, yeah. I was going to say, I'm not entirely sure I remember what the story was. There was just another thought I had as well. We were talking about adult literacy, because you get a lot of people, they find ways to cope, don't they? They have their own little tricks that they've deployed to help them to manage that during their lives.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I don't know if you know, I used to work in the steel industry, for years. And we were doing some training, trying to help a lot of the operators in the steel plants get their MVQs, because they could do all the work anyway, but then they'd have transferable skills that they could use in other places, And through that process, we managed to discover that a lot of the people who worked in the company couldn't read.
Yeah.
They were adults that maybe worked there for decades. They did their jobs brilliantly well. We had standard operating procedures and working instructions and health and safety documents, and they knew the content of all of them, but they were unable to read.
Because they talked about it.
Because they would have that discussion with their workmates. And that was fine, because then once we found that, we could put programs in place to help people learn to read, and it became like a really positive thing. But one thing that I was struck by was, these, people's workmates didn't know either quite often. So they would, for instance, someone might say, "Oh, I've forgotten to bring my reading glasses in. Could you let me know what that says?"
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And I just think
if you're in a cafe and you're looking at, what you want, you go, "I'll have what you're having."
Yes, exactly. Those sorts of things.
There's lots of little tricks. And the thing is you probably can get by, but a lot of time and energy goes into skirting the issue and getting by, and
I just thought it seems such a shame that people feel like they can't talk about it.
It's such a
shame. And it would be great if they felt like they could, and then if they wanted to, there'd be loads of people would want to help them to learn.
Exactly. And I totally understand. None of us want to say I'm not very good at something. None of us. But if you can get round it and you can find a way. The other thing is, if you genuinely can't, right, and if it's just too hard for you to tell someone, there is a way of just listening to Audible books. And again, you can get those from the library. And I would recommend you listen to an Audible book with the other book in front of you.
That's a really good idea. I've never thought of that.
Because sometimes you have a bit of reading skills, but you haven't got the whole lot. But if you're listening it, you're kind of reading along. And if you're still getting the benefits of reading, because you're still getting the escapism, you're still getting the empathy, you're still getting the entertainment. So you're getting plenty out that book. And the idea for me, and my belief is, if you enjoy an Audible book enough, it might make you go, okay, I want to read my own book, because there is a lovely private dialogue goes on between you and the book if you can, read fluently. But the thing is it's not just about reading books. If you can read fluently, you're able to read about your own healthcare. You're able to read about your working conditions. You're able to comfortably fill out your next job application. And there are so many things that allow you to get on in life if you have those skills. And there are schemes, and there are a lot of schemes up in Teesside to help you with those things. So even again, if you don't want to tell your nearest and dearest, go and find out by going to your local library and asking, where's there an adult education centre? And they'll help you out. If you want to do it privately, then, and I don't mean privately as in pay for, I mean, if you want to do it without your nearest and dearest knowing, you can still do that.
You can find ways to do that as well.
Yeah.
So
basically, tell your wife or tell your husband, and they won't go anywhere. They'll love you anyway.
Absolutely right. Well, we all will. So look, Adele, it's been lovely to talk to you. We've had a great discussion about literacy and libraries. And I, as you can tell, I really share your passion for this, and it'd be great for us to work together on getting some of these Adele Parks libraries
that'd be
set
amazing.
up here in Stockton as well. And I think for all of the listeners to the podcast too, I just want to let people know that your latest book, Our Beautiful Mess, is out.
Latest bestseller. After half a week sales, that's already number 8 in the charts.
That is absolutely amazing. Your 25th book in 25 years as well. That you must have a really solid work rate to be able to turn out books. I
am a bit of a girly swat.
Yeah,
I am.
Do you give yourself a number of words target every day?
I do. I like to write between 1,000 to 2,000 words every day. And I cut them down quite often as well. But between 1,000 to 2,000 words every day will get me, that's 100,000 words, that novel. And that I will get there in 8 months if I'm that consistent. Now, there are days that I haven't written today. I've driven up the motorway, come to see you, got my event tonight. That's not going to be a day I write. I've got my mum and dad staying with me next week. That's not going to be a week I write. I've got other things in my life. But on the whole, when I'm doing, I would say sort of 46 weeks out of 52, I write Monday to Friday.
And I think that's an important discipline. You treat it like a job. It's a job.
It is a job. I don't treat it like a job. It is my job. Yeah. It's a job I love. Mm-hmm. And I'm so lucky because I get to, make stuff up and no one calls me a liar. I get to make stuff up and I get to entertain people. I get to meet interesting people. I get to offer that service that I've talked about, which is creating empathy, allowing escapism, creating entertainment. I get to do that as my day-to-day job, and I can't think of anything better for me. I'm so lucky.
So Adele, we've talked about when you were growing up how you were sort of really excited by books and the inspiration that they were, but I wonder, could you put your finger on any single book that you think was really motivated you to pick up the pen and to start writing?
I don't think I can say...
Or maybe an author.
I was going to say, I don't think I can say any single book, but definitely loved Enid Blyton when I was a child. And I loved the ones... mine fell into 2 categories. I would say my sister liked the school ones and the mystery ones. So she liked, Famous Five and...
The Secret Seven, all
Secret
this sort
Seven,
of stuff. Yeah, the
Mary
boarding
St.
school
Clair's,
ones as well.
Yeah, Mallory Towers and St. Clair's, all that. I liked things like Naughty Amelia Jane. Oops, I think I like the Naughty Mischievous Girls. And I also loved things like the Magic Wishing Chair and the Magic Faraway Tree
as well. That was very popular.
Yeah, which I just loved that idea that you could be somewhere very ordinary, like in a chair, and then suddenly somewhere fabulous, because actually I think that's what books do. They just transport you.
Take you somewhere else.
So I do think there was those books, but honestly, I think there were so many books. I was always daydreaming. I was always talking to characters in my head. My first imaginary best friend was Oliver Twist. We'd been to see Oliver in the movies in Stockton, actually, in the old Odeon. And then my dad started reading it to us in the evenings. And I don't think I really understood the book because I was very young. But I did understand there was a starving child. And so I just had this imaginary friend that I insisted that we fed. So even my first imaginary friend
was that just a way to get like extra helpings at tea?
That's what my mum always said. It was like, what's going on here? But apparently I used to, wait for him and say, oh, we're walking too fast for him and that sort of thing.
But you can see that's the storytelling starting already.
And actually also the empathy. If you think about that was already me worrying that this kid wasn't being fed and that he was walking slowly because he was so, poor and skinny and hadn't been fed, and I was fit and healthy and all those things. So yeah, I think it was just in me early.
But that you described though, that empathy and so on, that's very much a feature of your books. I mean, so this whole relationship aspect is very much a feature of your books as well.
Yeah.
It really comes out. And I mean, and would you say that's sort of a similar theme in your latest book as well?
So, Our Beautiful Mess is, you open the book at the beginning and it says the end, and your first thought is, I want my money back. It's like, I've got a damaged copy. No, that is not true. You meet this woman and she's in her midlife, and she's a mum of 3 young, old teenagers, young 20s girls. And you meet her and somebody is holding a gun to her because this is a domestic thriller, And then the gun is let off and she is desperately dealing with a wound. And you don't know as a reader, is it her wound or is it somebody she dearly loves? But because it's entitled The End, it's not good. And then you turn the page and it literally says 11 days earlier, and you meet this lovely woman, Connie, and she's literally up a stepladder messing around with her Christmas tree, with her kids, waiting for everybody to come home for Christmas. And she thinks the only thing she's got to be concerned about in life is her charcuterie board good enough for Instagram? Because she's fallen into that trap. Yeah. But we as readers are kind of going, Connie, kid, there is so much more you need to worry about. Her daughter, this isn't a spoiler, it's all first chapter. Her eldest daughter comes home, and for the first time she's bringing a boyfriend home, and Connie is excited at the idea of young love coming back to the home. No disrespect to my husband and our long-term love, but young love is quite exciting in the house, so she's really looking forward to it. But the minute she claps eyes on the boy, her daughter's boyfriend, she knows he is intrinsically linked to the one mistake she has made in her past. And she knows that if that comes out, everything is going to blow up. And it's a devastating thing for a parent because, most right-thinking parents, all they want to do is protect their kids, make their kids' lives better. So the idea is she's bringing hurt into her daughter's life is devastating for her. But just as she's trying to negotiate that, the daughter announces she's pregnant, and she's still very young, and she's at university. It's not part of the life plan. That is the beginning of endless numbers of secrets that this ostensibly very close family, ostensibly perfect family have. So whilst there's this, husband and wife, and they've got parents staying with them, and they've got these 3 adult-ish children, everybody seems to have a secret. And it's also Christmas week, and I don't know about you, but Christmas can get stressful.
Yes, it's busy enough anyway, isn't it?
Busy enough. All of that. But I wanted to give it that sort of tight time frame and push them all together so they couldn't hide from each other.
I'm sure having listened to anyone who is listening to this will now be racing out to buy a copy of your book.
I hope so.
Because what you've got there is all of the things we're talking about with empathy and relationships and so on. But you've just described to me an element of kind of mystery and the perfect sort of cliffhanger. And it is something about the art of crafting a book that you do need to hook your reader in at the start in that first chapter, don't you? Because people might give up otherwise. Do you consciously think about that 100%. When you're writing?
And especially in this book, because I didn't want people to open up on the Christmas tree dressing scene and think, this is a family thing, this isn't for me. If they were into thrillers or something like that. Yes. Because if you're into families, you don't really mind if they come in thrillers or crime or romances, but if you're into thrillers, you don't really want to read about families. So I was trying to sort of say, no, this is a thriller. This is going to get bad for these people. But look, they're just ordinary people that take a wrong turn, because that is actually ostensibly what they are. And I do plot. Part of my process is sort of, the fun bit for me is puzzling over what could happen and what next and what if. And I don't know where that comes from, but one time, me and my husband were in a lift, got in a lift, and this other bloke got in the lift. And it was just the 3 of us going up, and it was quite a long journey, and nobody said anything. And when he got out the lift, I went, I'm glad he didn't stab us. And my husband was like, that is such a weird... We were in a lovely restaurant, you know what I mean? He was like, that is a really weird conversation, like a really weird thought. How did that come to your head? I was like, it just could be the beginning of a book, couldn't it? That could happen. And he was like, I think you should.
So are you spotting the beginnings of books everywhere?
All the time.
Then? So it's not a case of, I've finished this book, now next week I'm going to start another one. What will it be about? You must have a running list of ideas.
So I finished this book, and this one's the one I'm promoting now and talking about to people now and having lovely events and meeting my gorgeous readers. But I've already written the one that will come out in hardback this year, come out in August. And I'm writing the one that will come out in 2027. I have a little idea of an idea for 2028. Because
so it's a continuous process.
Yeah, I have more ideas than I have time. People are always saying to me, do you think you'll run out of ideas? And I'm like, no, I think I'll run out of time. Because that's
glorious though, isn't it?
It's gorgeous. Really is, it's really gorgeous. But part of that process of that planning is, for me, fun. I think some people might want to be a writer, and they might think, I could do that. And then they panic. They think, there's things I don't understand about writing, like plotting. Plotting is just a fancy word for sort of saying, work out what's going to happen.
Yeah, figure out the story.
Work out what's going to happen when. Mm-hmm. And that is basically...
And do you do that at any sort of level of detail? I mean, is it basic milestones and then you sort of work through it? Yeah.
So I always describe that I live down south now, and I live in Surrey, and my mum and dad live up here still in Teesside. And I always say, when I come and visit them, which is about once a month, I know how to get here. But there are a number of routes I could take. I could take all the B roads. I could take all the A roads. I could come on the motorways. There's 2 motorways. I could choose those. So the idea is I always know where my books are going to end. And that's how that is the structure I need, but I don't necessarily know the route I'm going to take.
That's really important. So you have the ending in mind at the start.
I do. Not everybody does, but I do, because I think every word works harder if you know where you're going. Because if you know who's done it, so to speak, you know, on thrillers, on books where there's a body count, it's much... you can plant that person. You can either make that person really positive and likable so that it's a shock, or you can give people the creeps about that person right from the beginning, and then the readers are kind of reading going, well, he's obviously, or she's obviously a problem. Why aren't we spotting that, people around them? So there are many different ways of approaching it, but I like to know where it's going.
But I really like that route map analogy, as you say. You can take it in different directions. But I mean, what about the, people do talk about their writer's block or whatever. Do you have, I mean, you said you write most days, but not every day. But are you kind of sort of flexible with yourself, essentially? Not. Are you not? Oh,
I am not.
You're very firm with yourself.
I am very firm with myself. I have what I believe is my Teesside roots work ethic. And I genuinely believe that. I know exactly
what you mean. Yeah, got to do a day's work.
You do your day's work, otherwise, you know, what you're here for. Yeah, and genuinely, I think writer's block is a very fancy name that writers have been given. But because, you know, we're in this sort of nebulous career that not everybody understands.
Do you think it's an excuse to go for a day out? Is that what you're
saying?
I
think it's a lack of confidence.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a day when you're feeling underconfident, or when you're feeling, I'm just not my best today, I'm a bit sluggish, maybe you had a big night the night before and you're a bit hungover, whatever it might be. But isn't that the same if you're a doctor, a teacher, if you sweep roads, if you are the lollipop lady? There are days you get out of bed and you think, can't be bothered, don't fancy it. But you go because you have your rent to pay, or you've got your mortgage to pay. And if you've got those things that make you turn up, you then get better at it, don't you? You shake off the day and you do your job and you get on with it. So I approach writing the same. There are days when I start thinking, I haven't got this. And what I'll do is I'll just jump ahead, or I'll describe something completely different, or I'll write something completely different. So you can always
find something to do, ultimately. I really love how you've described that as a Teesside work ethic as well. I know a lot of our listeners to the podcast will really recognise that. Yeah. It's a sort of thing that's very much inherited from your parents as well, isn't it?
And I'm sure, by the way, I'm not dissing other areas. I'm certain that work ethic is
no, you're allowed. This podcast is a safe space for people who support Stockton and Teesside, so don't worry about that.
I genuinely believe it. And I've always been like that. My sister's like that. You know, my mum and dad were like that. We're all like that. I mean, they're both retired, but you can't tell. They're still as busy little bees, you know, so yeah.
No, that's really lovely, Adele. The joy of reading and the joy of writing, all in one go. So I'd really like to thank Adele. And of course, you can, if you want to see some of Adele's books, you can go to Stockton Library, and you can go to Drake's the bookshop as well to get your own copies to take home for your own library at home as well. So thank you very much, Adele. It's been lovely to see you.
Absolutely lovely to be here.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.